Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I was barely 2 when all this started, but I've heard this story so many times from my mom that I feel like I lived through it myself. My parents had just bought their first house in what seemed like a nice, quiet neighborhood. My older sibling was a toddler, and I was still in diapers when the Homeowners Association drama began. Back then, my parents were young and naive about how these things worked. Every month, they dutifully paid their fees to the HOA, thinking they were getting something valuable in return. The HOA claimed they handled snow removal and trash collection for the neighborhood, which sounded reasonable enough. My dad worked long hours at his construction job, and my mom was juggling 2 small kids while working part-time, so they didn't have much energy to question things. The truth was, the city had always handled snow plows and garbage trucks. The HOA wasn't doing anything except collecting money and patting themselves on the back. But my parents didn't know that yet. They were too busy trying to keep 2 little kids fed, clothed, and out of trouble to investigate where their monthly payments were actually going. Everything changed the summer I turned 3. The HOA announced they were going to beautify the neighborhood by planting new trees everywhere. My parents thought this sounded great until my dad's mom came to visit. She had been a master gardener for decades and knew everything about plants, soil, and proper planting techniques. My grandma was sitting in our living room when she noticed some workers outside. She called my mom over to the window and pointed out what the workers were doing wrong. She told my mom that the men were just dropping the saplings on the grass instead of actually planting them. My mom pressed her face to the glass and watched. The workers were literally tossing bagged saplings onto people's lawns and walking away. No holes dug, no soil preparation, nothing. The trees were still in their plastic bags with their roots completely covered. My mom asked my grandma if the workers were coming back to actually plant them properly. My grandma explained that those trees would be dead by morning if they didn't get in the ground soon. She said this was either the worst landscaping crew in the state or someone was pulling a fast one. That night, my mom kept checking the windows. The saplings just sat there on the grass like abandoned packages. By morning, it was clear no one was coming back to finish the job. My grandma shook her head when she looked out at the sad little trees wilting in their bags. She told my mom that she had seen a lot of bad gardening in her day, but this was the worst. Someone was getting paid good money to kill trees. That's when something clicked in my mom's head. She was paying actual money every month while working her butt off to take care of 2 little kids, and these people couldn't even be bothered to plant trees properly. She was done being taken advantage of. So she walked over to the head of the HOA's house with my sibling and me in tow. The woman who answered the door seemed surprised to see an angry neighbor on her doorstep. My mom told the woman she needed to talk about the trees. She said they were paying for professional landscaping, not for someone to dump dying plants on their lawns. The HOA head tried to brush it off, saying the crew would be back to finish up. My mom asked when exactly that would happen. She explained that the trees had been sitting there for over 24 hours, and her mother-in-law, who was a master gardener, said they would die if they didn't get planted soon. The HOA head started making excuses about scheduling conflicts and weather delays, but my mom wasn't buying any of it. Then the woman asked if my mom would be interested in joining the board. She said they could use someone with her energy and passion for the neighborhood. My mom agreed, thinking she could make a difference from the inside. The trees eventually got planted, but just like my grandma predicted, most of them died within a few weeks. At her first HOA meeting, my mom couldn't believe what she saw. There were maybe 5 people sitting around someone's kitchen table, and they all seemed to know each other really well. Too well, it turned out. The HOA head welcomed my mom to their little group and said they were excited to have fresh blood. One board member mentioned that it was usually just family members at these meetings, which made things easier. That comment made my mom's ears perk up. When the meeting went on, she started asking questions about the contractors they used and how decisions got made. Every single vendor was related to someone on the board. The tree company was owned by the HOA head's son. The snow removal service was run by another board member's brother. Even the guy who supposedly maintained the neighborhood entrance was someone's cousin. None of these family members were actually getting paid by the HOA. They were doing the work for free favors, except they weren't actually doing the work at all. My mom asked where the monthly fee money went if the contractors weren't getting paid. The HOA head said it went toward administrative costs like insurance, legal fees, and office supplies. My mom looked around the kitchen and asked what office they were talking about. The awkward silence told my mom everything she needed to know. That summer, while my dad worked and my sibling went to day camp, my mom turned into a detective. She spent every spare moment going through years of HOA financial records, and what she found made her blood boil. The HOA had been collecting money from the entire neighborhood for services they never provided. Worse yet, they weren't even supposed to be operating in our area. Their official zone was a completely different neighborhood across town. My mom confronted the board about stealing money from families who could barely afford their mortgages when they didn't even have the legal right to operate in our area. The board just shrugged and made more excuses. The HOA head said they had been doing this for years and nobody had complained before. My mom told them that was because nobody knew what they were up to and that it was ending now. My mom spent the rest of that summer going door to door with pamphlets explaining the situation. She pushed my sibling and me around the neighborhood in a double stroller while handing out information in both English and Spanish. Our neighborhood had a lot of Latino families, and my mom wanted to make sure everyone understood what was happening. Neighbors were shocked when my mom explained that they didn't actually have to pay these people. She told them that not only did they not have to pay, but the HOA wasn't legally allowed to collect money from them in the first place. When people asked how long this had been going on, my mom told them it had been years and that the fake board had stolen thousands of dollars from the neighborhood. One other HOA board member tried to help my mom expose the fraud, but she had to back out when her job started demanding more overtime. My mom pressed on alone, determined to protect her neighbors from being ripped off. She hired a lawyer and an accountant with money from her teacher's salary. It was expensive, but she knew it was worth it to stop the theft happening in her own neighborhood. The day she walked into that courthouse flanked by her legal team, my mom had boxes of evidence proving the HOA's fraud. Bank records showing where the money really went. Documents proving they had no authority in our neighborhood. Testimony from neighbors who had been lied to for years. The judge told my mom that it appeared the organization had been operating fraudulently in her neighborhood for quite some time. My mom confirmed that they had stolen thousands of dollars from working families while providing no services whatsoever. The judge ruled in my mom's favor completely. The fake HOA was ordered to disband immediately and return all the money they had stolen. The head of the HOA and her cronies were barred from ever forming another homeowners association anywhere in the county. That was almost 19 years ago. To this day, no one has even attempted to start another HOA in our neighborhood. I started working at the city zoo during summer break because my dad told me I needed to learn responsibility and earn my own money. The job was mostly helping in the gift shop and sometimes with guest services. I loved being around the animals every day, even though the pay was not great. The zoo was usually peaceful with families walking around and kids getting excited about seeing the animals. Everything changed on a hot July day when the temperature hit 95 degrees. I was working near the primate exhibit, making sure people followed the rules about not feeding animals or tapping on glass. That's when I saw her walking toward the exhibit. She wore expensive clothes and big sunglasses and acted like she owned the place. Her tired-looking husband and two kids followed behind her. They stopped at the window where Max, our oldest gorilla, was resting in the shade. Max had been at the zoo for over 20 years and was loved by all the staff. The woman started complaining loudly that the animals were boring and just sleeping. She said they paid good money and expected the animals to entertain them. I walked over and explained that the animals rest during hot weather to stay cool. I told her that if she came back in about an hour when it cooled down, she would see more activity. She said she did not want to come back later and demanded the animals do something interesting right now. Her husband suggested they move to another exhibit, but she refused. Then she pulled out a bag of peanuts from her purse and started throwing them at Max. I told her she could not feed the animals because it was dangerous for their health. She said not to tell her what to do because they paid to get in. I explained that human food could make the animals sick and cause serious problems. She called my explanation nonsense and kept throwing peanuts. I could see Max getting upset and his body language changing. Suddenly, Max roared loudly and charged at the glass. Kids around us started crying and her own children screamed. Instead of realizing she caused the problem, she blamed me. She yelled that I was upsetting the animals and probably mistreating them. Before I could respond, she threw her iced coffee at me. The cold liquid hit my face and soaked my uniform shirt. Other families stared in shock while some pulled out phones to record. My manager heard the noise and came running over. He asked what was happening and she immediately started yelling at him too. She said I was harassing them and not letting them enjoy the animals they paid to see. She claimed I was abusing the animals because they acted violent. My manager looked at the coffee on my uniform and the peanuts on the ground. He asked her to calm down and explain what happened. She said she did not need to calm down and demanded I be fired. She wanted a full refund and threatened to report us to animal control. My manager offered to get towels and discuss everything in his office, but she was beyond reasoning and started moving toward the animal barrier. She declared the animals were mistreated and she was going to free them. My manager quickly blocked her path and told her she could not go near the animals. That's when she made her biggest mistake. She pulled back her hand and slapped my manager hard across the face. The sound echoed through the whole area and everyone went silent. Even her husband looked horrified and asked what she had done. My manager touched his cheek but stayed professional. He said he was calling security and spoke into his radio. 2 security guards appeared within seconds and told her she needed to come with him. She screamed that they could not do this to her and threatened to sue everyone. The guards escorted her out while she continued yelling about lawsuits. Her embarrassed family followed behind with her husband, apologizing to everyone. The rest of my shift was spent giving statements and cleaning up her mess. Other visitors kept asking if I was okay and saying they were sorry I had to deal with her. A few weeks later, my manager told me she was arrested for assault. This was not her first incident like this either. Police records showed she was banned from several restaurants, stores, and a movie theater for similar behavior. The zoo banned her permanently as well. I lost my dad when I was 5 years old. It's one of those things that shapes everything about your childhood, you know? But looking back, I'm grateful for what came after. My dad's side of the family never abandoned me, even though they could have easily drifted away once he was gone. My paternal grandma especially stepped up in a huge way. She started teaching me how to cook when I was around 6. At first, it was just simple stuff like scrambled eggs and toast. But Grandma had this whole philosophy about cooking. She believed kids should learn young, get the basics down early. She also made a big deal about boys learning to cook because she'd seen too many grown men who couldn't make a single meal for themselves. The real treasure, though, was her cookbook. This thing had been passed down through generations. Her grandma started it, taught all her kids from it. Then her mom continued the tradition with Grandma and her siblings. When Grandma got married and had kids of her own, she used the same cookbook to teach my dad and his brothers and sisters. Some of my cousins had learned bits and pieces from it over the years, but Grandma and we went through the whole thing together. For the past 10 years, every time I visited my grandparents, we'd pick a new recipe and work on it together. We started with simple things like her great-great-grandmother's biscuit recipe, then moved on to more complex dishes. There were stories behind every recipe. This casserole was what they made during the Depression when money was tight. That soup recipe came from a neighbor who helped the family through a difficult winter. Each page wasn't just about food, it was about family history. When I was 11, my mom remarried. She'd been with this guy for a while, even before my parents separated and my dad died. They had 2 daughters together, my half-sisters, who are 9 and 8 now. Don't get me wrong, they're good kids, but our relationship has always been a bit complicated. A few months ago, everything changed. My mom had somehow seen Facebook posts my grandma made about our cooking sessions. Grandma doesn't post much on social media, and she and my mom aren't even friends on there, so I'm still not sure how mom found them. But she started showing these posts to my half-sisters, talking about how their big brother was learning all these amazing family recipes. The girls got jealous pretty quickly. They wanted in on the action. They kept asking when they could come cook with Grandma and me, when they could learn the recipes too. The problem is, they don't really know my grandma. She's never been part of their lives, and honestly, I like keeping my time with my dad's family separate from everything else. When the pestering didn't stop, my mom decided to take matters into her own hands. She announced that my half-sisters should start their own cookbook, their own family tradition. That sounded fine to me. But then came the catch. They wanted me involved. They wanted me to share all the recipes I'd learned with Grandma so they could include them in their new book. I refused immediately. This wasn't about being mean to my sisters. This was about protecting something that connected me to my dad's memory and my paternal family's history. My mom told me I should be willing to share recipes that mean something to me with my only siblings. I tried to explain that these weren't just recipes, they were family history. Dad's family history. She insisted that even though they might not be my dad's kids, they were still my family and they wanted to take part in this with me. I told her they could start their own tradition and that this should be for her and them, not me. But my mom wouldn't let it go. She kept pushing, getting more frustrated each time I said no. She accused me of being selfish and reminded me that these girls looked up to me. I tried to explain that I wasn't being selfish, just protecting something important to me. The girls started pestering me constantly after that. Every time I came home from Grandma's house, they'd bombard me with questions about what we cooked, begging me to teach them the recipes. When I'd refuse, they'd get upset, and then my mom would get mad at me for making them cry. Mom kept telling me I was being a jerk and that I should be embracing the connection between my dad's family and my current family. I kept trying to explain that there didn't need to be a connection, that some things could stay separate. She said it made them feel bad that I didn't want them to share in something I enjoyed so much. I told her they could enjoy cooking without taking my recipes. This went on for weeks. The pressure kept building. My sisters would corner me in the kitchen, the living room, wherever they could find me alone. They'd beg me to teach them just one recipe, promising they wouldn't tell anyone it came from Grandma's book. I tried to explain that it wasn't about telling people, it was about what these recipes meant to me, but they were just kids. They didn't understand why I was being so protective. The breaking point came last week. I came home from another cooking session with Grandma, and my mom was waiting for me with both girls and her husband. She told me we needed to talk and that this had gone on long enough. She'd apparently decided that since I wouldn't cooperate voluntarily, she'd try a different approach. Mom explained that my sisters had been working on their cookbook for weeks now, and it was obvious they needed my help to make it special. I repeated that they didn't need my help, they needed to make their own memories. My stepdad jumped in, telling me that family means supporting each other, and that my mom was right about this. I told him I wasn't his son, and that this wasn't about family support. The room went quiet after I said that. I could see I'd hurt his feelings, but I was tired of being pushed around. Mom was furious that I'd spoken to him like that. She said he'd been nothing but good to me. I clarified that I wasn't saying he was bad, just that he wasn't my dad, and these recipes connected me to my actual dad. That's when my mom lost it completely. She yelled that my dad was dead, had been dead for 11 years, and it was time I accepted that this was my family now. The words hit like a slap. My sisters looked shocked. Even my stepdad seemed uncomfortable with how harsh she'd been. I told her that was exactly why these recipes mattered so much to me. I went to my room and called my grandma. I told her everything that had been happening, how mom was pressuring me to share our recipes, how my sisters wouldn't stop pestering me. Grandma told me that those recipes were mine as much as they were hers. My dad had learned them, and now I was learning them. No one had the right to demand I share them. I asked if mom was right about me being selfish. Grandma said protecting something precious wasn't selfish, it was necessary. The next day, something unexpected happened. My grandma showed up at our house. She rarely visited, preferring that I come to her, so everyone was surprised. She announced that she'd heard there was some confusion about family recipes. Mom said we weren't expecting her. Grandma explained that she'd come to clear something up. The cookbook she'd been using to teach me belonged to her family and had been passed down through 4 generations of her relatives. Mom said we understood that, but the girls just wanted to feel included. Grandma said that was wonderful and that she thought children should learn to cook, but she emphasized they should learn their own family's recipes, not hers. My stepdad tried to smooth things over. He said we just thought it would be nice if the kids could all share something together. Grandma explained that they could share plenty of things, but some things should remain separate. This boy had lost his father young, and these recipes were one of the few connections he had to that side of his heritage. Mom insisted that we were his family too. Grandma agreed that of course we were and said we should make our own traditions with him, but she made it clear that trying to take theirs wasn't the way to do it. My grandma stayed for another hour talking calmly but about boundaries and respect. When she left, the house was quiet for a long time. Later that evening, my mom came to my room. She apologized and admitted she was wrong to push me about the recipes. I thanked her for saying that. She explained that she just wanted the girls to feel closer to me, and I told her we could be close, just without sharing everything. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.